Hi, I'm Autumnalcium, and welcome back to my Cosmere channel. We are going to be discussing Vin Venture today. I think Vin is such a compelling character for so many reasons, and one that I personally feel very close to. But just in general, I think she generates a lot of really interesting discussion that I'm excited to kind of dive into today. When I was at Dragonsteel Nexus this year, which I will be talking about in another video soon, I was able to be a part of and lead a panel about the women of the Cosmere, which of course I hope we get to do again because there's just so much to discuss and we really only scratched the surface. But it was a very good panel. It went well. The audience was very responsive, and we had a lot of very meaningful responses from people that made me very inspired to turn this into a series, but also to hopefully reprise this panel at next year's Nexus and get to continue the discussion again, because these characters in general in the Cosmere are just so meaningful to so many people. And I think that discussing the women is always something that I think in fantasy spaces can be really important for us to do. And Vin is one of those characters that for many people, it's the first woman that they read in Brandon's books. And she goes through such an interesting journey from start to finish that I think is just so worth diving into. There is so much to talk about with Vin, and I feel like there's this energy that kind of surrounds her in a lot of spaces where, because of the way she acts in book one, some people aren't willing to always give her a chance, which I find so fascinating because I think book one is some of the most compelling character work from her, although book three is my absolute favorite. I really think she just grows so much throughout the series. The big thing that a complaint I see a lot about her and about her character is the dresses, right? And that is something that I talked about a bit on the panel, and it's something I've also talked about on my TikTok before as well. The dresses are not just dresses to Vin, right? First of all, I really reject this idea that Vin wearing dresses in book one, and it's like these men that are telling her to wear these dresses or whatever, is inherently sexist or problematic. She's going undercover amongst the nobility. I think it would be pretty noticeable that she doesn't belong if she had to wear pants, right? And she wasn't the original plan. Dachshund was supposed to go, but he had been like recently discovered and was not young enough in appearance. And same with Breeze. Like Breeze and Dachshund were both options, and it just wasn't going to work out. Who else in the crew? Ham wouldn't have fit in. Kelsier is supposed to be dead. Like, Vin is the next obvious choice. You can't send Spook in there, book one. That would have been ridiculous. But so you send in this chameleon street urchin who's already like predisposed to kind of acting in a sense, or self-disguising often, right? And she's incredibly traumatized for several reasons. We really don't have to get into it. I think if you've read the books, you should know, like, mother tried to kill her. Her brother, as far as she knew, had abandoned her and like consigned her to like death and slavery essentially for the rest of her life. But there's also this element, one section of book one that I think is really impactful, is we get a moment in Vin's point of view where she remembers how Reen would take her from town to town, and she would cry every time they left because she had gotten attached to the people there, and he would beat her for that. And then, of course, all of the other things like keeping her hair short and beating her often to kind of train her into some kind of a submissiveness, but not even submissiveness. I think it's more like, just don't take up space and don't be too feminine, because it can be a real problem if you are in this space. It's not safe for you. Right? It's not that he's trying to train womanhood out of her because he thinks that there's some kind of like objective issue with her being a girl. It's just that it's dangerous. Not that it's okay. He goes about it in a pretty horrible way, but he's also a traumatized kid, right? So it's like not a justification, but it is a reason. And I think this whole like sort of moment here that we're discussing right now is so important to her story, because it shows how those sensitive things about Vin are always true. I think she's always very sensitive and caring in so many different ways. And she's also able to cut it off, right? And become this killing machine, which is something that becomes a big point of internal conflict for her throughout book 2. Is like, is that all she's good for? Is murder, murder, death, be a badass, like protect yourself, protect your loved ones, and that is why you're here. Which it's obvious that that's not the most important thing about her, right? Like she is so caring and loving. And in Era 2, Tensoon has this interesting line about her where he says, like, of all the humans I've ever met, she was the most human of them all. If she were to kiss, she was the whole kiss. And if she were to cut, she would be the blade. Like she was everything. She poured herself fully into everything that she did, which is such a beautiful thing about Vin, and one of the things that makes me feel most seen by her. So going back to the dresses, right? This sensitive feminine side of her, not that you have to be a woman to be feminine, but I don't really feel like qualifying everything that I say in this video. So I think that you understand the nuance of what I'm trying to say. She is sensitive, and there are things that are inherently feminine about her. And it's not like a sexist, anti-feminist point of view for Brandon to have Vin start to, like in his writing, she starts to like the dresses and enjoy this lifestyle. That is not because the message of the book is it's better to be a feminine girly girl than to be, I don't know, like a traumatized tomboy. Like that's not at all the point. From my reading of it, and I think several people would agree with me on this, like the huge sort of moment for her with these dresses is it allows her for the first time to explore femininity. She has been punished every time, like in some way, abstractly or literally, for expressing femininity at any point, like so far. And so at this stage, she's living in some degree, like she's living in a comfortable life for the first time ever. So she's comfortable and she's kind of pampered, especially as she lives with Renew and keeps up the active Valette. And she goes to these balls. Like she's starting to get used to those things. And she's also exploring, like her hair is growing out and she's wearing makeup and she's learning to dance and she's wearing these dresses. And she's starting to feel insecure about the fact that she's insecure about the fact that she enjoys it. And then we get in book 2, it's still an issue. She's refusing to wear dresses. I mean, she's still wearing the perfumes. She's wearing perfumes because that, I think, allows her to hold on to a part of that, a part of Valette. And Ellen likes it. But it's also that, you know, she calls Alrianne a puffball, and she has this issue with her. Part of it, I think a lot of it is rooted in like a jealousy in a way. And also, of course, it's just a complicated environment in general, but she really rejects this idea of exploring her femininity until, of course, like we get, especially when we get to book 3, and she's able to do it again, and she goes to that ball in Fadrex City, and she is wearing that dress. I talk about this moment all the time because I think it's just such, to not finish the series and to not see her grow into this person, I think is such a, like, it's so worth it for this moment where throughout books 1 and 2, we really see this very interesting story for Vin where she really learns what love is and what friendship is and what sacrifice is, and that love is letting someone be, like, and respecting them and their decisions and not trying to control them, or like it's just letting someone exist as themselves and make their own decisions and be okay with that, right? And to feel comfortable in the loving, to know that love is enough and trust is enough. She's in a place at the end of book 2 where she really can accept Ellen's death. Like she has this moment where she can accept it, and because she's gotten to a point where she's had that realization that love is letting someone make their decisions, and this is the decision he's making in that moment. And then we see her echo those sentiments to Sazed in book 3 and give him the Merewolf flower picture. And it's a very beautiful student becomes a teacher moment, but it's also just beautiful for her to have seen her come to this place where she is so comfortable with letting things be. It's a huge point to her character in general about how she exists in her senses, like in her intuition, what she feels. It's all about the feeling for her, whereas Ellen intellectualizes. And he can't understand why she is that way. Like they both kind of at first struggle to understand how the other exists in those spaces, and then come to see like the value in that. And obviously Vin is wrong. Vin can be wrong. She's very wrong in Well of Ascension about something. It's because it's in her gut, right? It's not always the best thing to exist fully in your senses and to act on them and only on your intuition. And yet sometimes it's the absolute right thing, depending on the situation. So that's why they balance each other out and why they're so good for each other. She has this moment, I want to go back to this. She has this moment in Fadric City where she is talking to the ladies and she's walking around in this beautiful gown. And Elend is talking to, I don't know who he's talking to in that moment, actually, now that I think about it. But she has this moment where she realizes, like, I was never Vin or Valette. Valette was never a character. Like, she was always me. I can be both. I am both the weapon and the woman. They're not mutually exclusive. And I exist in both of those spaces. And she really accepts and exists, like, she accepts that about herself, feels it, and it really is so integral to her being able to make that final sacrifice at the end of the book. And to make all of the sacrifices that she makes throughout Hero of Ages, because she's able to just accept who she is. God, it's so powerful. Like, it's so powerful, this idea of her really understanding she can be harsh and passionate and hard and present and grounded and masculine at times and just like dangerous. And she can also be soft and feminine and sensitive and like those things. You can be all of it. That is just such amazing writing. And such a great story and a journey that is so underrepresented, but happens so often, I think, for young women, especially just like, it's not only this way, but like eldest daughters or just outspoken young women, women who have grown up in these worlds in which they have had to become a provider and forsaken more sensitive parts of themselves for the sake of others or for the sake of survival. And then like being able to have that moment of, okay, like I am an intense, passionate, loud, outspoken person, and I am also a soft, sensitive, gentle, caring person, and I can be all of these things, these traditionally masculine traits and traditionally feminine traits. Like, I don't exist on one island. Like, I am all of these things together. And I think that is something, we don't see it enough, but it is so important to show it in writing and for these young women, I think, especially. And so when people complain about the dresses, or when people complain about like Vin's exploration of her femininity, it really puts me off. I think it's like such an amazing gift that we are given. Like, personally, I identify with her a lot. And so it's a gift to me in that sense that I read her and I feel represented by her. And Vin was the first character that did that for me. And I think that, so I'm obviously like, I'm attached to her in this way, but it's also just, it's such an interesting and amazing gift that we're given to have an author who writes character in such a present way. And it takes such care to get so many things right. And Mistborn is an earlier series, but he still does well. Like Vin, I think is incredibly written, says it as well. But then you like move forward into Stormlight and later books, like he really gets more nuanced and more invested in making sure that he's doing justice by these characters and fighting for them and really building them out to be people. That is a gift to us, not just to see ourselves, but also to see perspectives of people we couldn't ever imagine. There are tons of like men in their 40s who read Mistborn who could never understand what it's like to be a teenage girl. But that's a pretty good representation. Same with Shallan, but that's a whole other conversation that we will be having. But with Vin, it's like you are given on a silver platter an opportunity to really see through the eyes of someone whose lived experience is not at all like yours. Or sometimes maybe it's adjacent to yours. Or it is similar, but you're rejecting it for whatever reason. Like, I think having presence and being present and able to engage with the text in that way, like, I ask you, I implore you to engage with it empathetically and to let it in. Let the characters in and let them impact you. Because this is an author who does a pretty good job consistently of writing characters that can, like, really get in there and impact you and really make you feel something if you allow it to. So I do ask that you try, if you aren't already, to really be there with them. Read not just the book in front of you, but read the character. How enlightening that can be. You know, it's an amazing thing. It's an amazing gift. And so I ask that everyone tries that if you haven't already. Chances are, if you're watching this video, you have. But anyway, since that's what we do here, we talk about characters. I find Vin's character, like, her arc is so impactful if you allow it to be. And I think that there's just so much to her that really gets overlooked. And so I ask you to stop doing that and just engage with her as she is. And if you are already engaging with her as she is, then I'm excited to talk to you about it more, because I honestly think we just don't talk about Mistborn enough in this community. We talk about Stormlight a lot, and I just don't feel like we give Mistborn enough room in discussion. And Stormlight's amazing. I love Stormlight, but we just don't really dig into Mistborn very often. So that's what I want to do. You know, past the lore, the magic system, and all these things. We do a lot of that in this community, but I want us to engage with them. That's what I'm excited about. So thank you so much for watching this video. You can find me on Instagram or TikTok at Audenalcium, just like it says here. And please subscribe so that we can keep having these conversations. In the new year, I plan to post a lot more frequently, a lot more frequently. So please join me in that. I'm really excited about what the new year will bring. So please like and comment and subscribe and all of the things. One day it'll roll off the tongue a lot better than it is now. But I would love it if you would subscribe and we can keep having these conversations. And if you aren't already subscribed to the Cosmere Nerds for Mental Health Ko-fi page, please consider doing that. You get early access to long-form content at certain tiers. You get other exclusive Cosmere content from some of your favorite creators, and there's just so much good, and all of the money goes directly to NerdHQ to help fund therapy for those in need. So I hope you'll consider that as well. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for watching the video. Bye.